Hi everyone, welcome back. I haven't made one of these videos in the longest time. I was just checking and I think the last video that I had out was like in June or July. And I have been reading a lot and I just realized if I go book by book the way I was earlier, I'm never going to finish, I'm never going to catch up. So I thought in this video I'd do something a little bit different. As is probably obvious from every aspect of my personality, I love video vlogs, but I also love booktubers, and they always do like a reading roundup. So I thought I would do something closer to that rather than a deep dive on each book. But obviously I can't help myself like from yapping, which is also obvious from all my videos. So I will probably be going into a little bit of detail about each one. I'm going to start with the Booker Prize Shortlist books that I was reading. I'm not done with the entire list. I still have Small Boat and the Leopard Hat one left over. But otherwise I've read the rest of them. So I'm going to start with those and then talk about the books that I'm currently reading, or like that I read after those, and the books that I have coming up, which are like on this table next to me. Okay, anyway. And for each of the Booker Prize books, I thought I would give you some books that it made me think of. So if you enjoyed this one, you can kind of go and read those, because that's a way for me to also condense all of the things that I want to say about it, because I can just point to other things that it made me think of. Okay, so the first book is Under the Eye of the Big Bird. I actually did do a book review of this. I think that was the last video that I did. But honestly, it's hard to pick a favorite, but I think this one and Perfection were two of my favorites in the entire list. I think it was just so good. It completely caught me off guard, but in the best way possible. It's a bit of speculative like fiction set in the like distant future about like how humanity has kind of changed, and it was just absolutely amazing. In the video that I made about it, I made it when I was in Bombay, so I didn't have my books with me, but I compared it to two books that it made me think about. So one is Jennifer Egan's A Visit from the Goon Squad. Also, this is a Pulitzer Prize winner, so that's a really nice comparison to have it to. And another thing that I just want to show off about for a quick second is that I have a signed copy, because Jennifer Egan came to my college, and my roommate and like Nani, I love you if you're watching this, but my roommate Kanani took me to this event. She's also a big reader, and in this book there's a character called Ria. It's one of the reasons I picked it up. Like, this girl called Shivangi that I went to school with had recommended it to me, and then I saw it in a bookstore. I saw that there was a character named Ria, and so I read it. And then when I told Jennifer Egan what my name was, she signed it and was like, to the real Ria, to the real one, or whatever. I was like so happy, and I want to recommend this book to everyone, but I'm so scared to like lend this copy out because I'm like, I prize it so much. Anyway, I'll be faster after this. The other book that Under the Eye of the Big Bird made me think of was The Overstory by Richard Powers. This is about trees. As you can see, the cover is full of trees. Oh, this also won the Booker Prize, which I should have known. I guess it's on the cover, but I didn't realize. This book is so good. It will change the way that you look at trees forever. I know that there's another book called The Hidden Life of Trees. One of my friends actually gifted that to me. I haven't read it yet. But this honestly was amazing, and I don't think I've ever read anything like it until Under the Eye of the Big Bird. So those are the ones from the review, and I kind of go into detail there of why they made me think of this book. But a few others that come to mind is Liberation Day by George Saunders. I think this one comes to mind because it takes the same kind of liberty of just like pushing you into the deep end of this world, and then like the confidence of John Saunders to be like, I will help you figure it out, but let's start in the middle and let's start like from the deep end. And of course it also has like future speculative elements in it. And the other book that it made me think of is The Immortal King Rao. I actually didn't really like this book that much. I loved the parts of his childhood, like when he's growing up in the village, but the future part I was like, yeah, I don't really like it that much. But I think it was trying to do something similar to this book. Also, is it a coincidence they kind of look alike? I don't know. I think it's like, anyway. So that was all about Under the Eye of the Big Bird. To go on to the next book, this is Perfection. Okay, also, like, how gorgeous is this book, right? Like, it's so beautiful. Like, I love this publishing house, Fitzcarraldo Editions. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I know how to spell it, which is harder. And all of their books look like this. They like have the same style, and they're so beautiful. And honestly, when I saw it, I was like, am I just buying it because it's a beautiful book? And especially being on the Booker Prize list and stuff, like a book this beautiful, you're like, can it really like be that good? Like, can it live up to the expectations? And then this book totally does. I actually wrote down my review of it, so I'm just gonna kind of read that out a little bit. There's always the suspicion with a beautiful book that is highly acclaimed that it will simply not be that good. But this book manages to hold those expectations and surpass them. Hold because it is calm, it doesn't panic or become a gimmick. The pacing holds. Surpass because it is the same small patch that it chooses and finds so much to carefully consider there. It felt like an Austen novel, not just the bait and switch of the sentences, but the intent, which was to describe. Apart from that, I also wrote like a bunch of other notes because it's just such a gorgeous book. I think, okay, some of the interesting things about this book, okay? One word that keeps coming, okay, let me start, no. The interesting thing about this book is that it's about Anna and Tom, who are this couple, and they live in Berlin, and they're like designers basically, and they've moved from like a small town or something to be in Berlin, and they're kind of like riding that wave that we all saw, where like you could work remotely and you had these super aesthetic houses that you put on Instagram. Like the first few pages of this book are just describing atmosphere like in their home. They're like, oh, there's like this wooden table with this finish, and then there's a monstera plant with lush green leaves, and and it's like beautiful to read. And you're also like, oh my god, I know this house because I've seen it on like a million Pinterest boards and on my Instagram feeds and all of that stuff. And like throughout the book, it's so interesting, like it's so funny, like he keeps being like, oh, and they had like a sans serif font, and they designed this with like a Helvetica font. And I just love that he keeps mentioning fonts, because honestly, like that is the most incisive comment that he can make about this generation, and like the unique kind of prosperity we saw with the internet boom and these designers having this lifestyle that nobody has ever experienced before. And then also the collapse of that lifestyle, and like trying to chase what we kind of had. I mean, not me, I was a little bit young then, but that lifestyle and that idea of that lifestyle that the internet made possible, and the fact that we're never kind of going back to that. Like they go to Lisbon at some point, and then they find that everything kind of reminds them of the same. Like it doesn't feel fresh and new, it doesn't feel like a different city, but at the same time it doesn't have any of the community that they're looking for and all of that stuff, which is really just so gorgeously done. Also, I don't think I've read any other book where like the main character, like the protagonist that we follow throughout the book, is a couple. You know, like sometimes I've had two friends and you alternate between them, or a couple and they're meeting, like the stories of them meeting, that's obviously like the most common one. But in this, Anna and Tom are treated basically as one unit, and it isn't until I think towards the end of the book that you actually see them like have a fight or like disagree on something, and then you're like, oh, they're like distinct humans. I think it was also interesting because there's this word that keeps coming up throughout the book, and it's difference. It is a translated work. It's translated by Sophia Hughes, so I wonder what the word was in the original book. But she keeps using the word difference. She's like, Anna and Tom's job is to create differences, right? Because they're like branding people and marketing people, which is essentially what that job is. And she says like your lifestyle, your personality, your taste, it's all about creating a difference. But at the same time, you keep seeing sameness, or like hegemony. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But you basically keep seeing that throughout the book, even though they're so fixated on uniqueness or difference, basically, um, which is great. And I just think the internal rhythm of the book really, really worked for me. Um, the book also felt really restrained, even though it was obviously like commenting on every aspect of their lives, and it was really describing things in a lot of detail, which I think was a really interesting aesthetic choice, because they're also describing a lifestyle which is like minimalist and all of that stuff. But yeah, it was just so, so, so good. This kind of naturally made me think of two other books while I was reading it. The first was Saving Time by Jenny Odell. I love this book. I made a reel about it as well. It is like packed to the like gills with so many takeaways about our modern perception of time. It says discovering a life beyond the clock, and she talks about like Taylorism, she talks about capitalism, she talks about like how clocks like run our lives, like all of these things. And oh my god, it's non-fiction, but I think it would be a really good accompaniment to this. And I think the reason why I actually discovered it recently, I saw this reel about neoliberalism, and he doesn't use the word, or Sophia in her translation doesn't use the word neoliberalism even once, but that's what this book is about. It's about those neoliberal ideas of what the world economy can look like and the failure of that model, essentially. And that is kind of what Saving Time is also about, because that's kind of what our modern capitalistic society operates on, like these principles of like a neoliberal economy and stuff. So I thought that it was a really interesting connection. The other thing, I kind of already gave it away in my description of the book, was a Jane Austen book. I only have Emma. I feel like Pride and Prejudice would be the obvious one, or Sense and Sensibility, but honestly, in every Jane Austen work, also how beautiful is this book? I got it from my friend Elena, and like the pages are like this beautiful, like unfinished raw edges, which I just love so much. Such a gorgeous book. Anyway, Jane Austen has these beautiful sentences which are so witty, because they like set up a premise and then they like invert it kind of. And I saw those kind of sentences in perfection all the time. Like, it's not in Emma, I think, but it's in one of Jane Austen's books where she's like, oh, he had a name, like he was named Dick and he almost deserved it, or something like that, you know? She's just like a master of those kind of sentences, and you really see that in perfection as well. Like, especially when he talks about their sex life and stuff. I don't want to ruin it, but 100% definitely read. It's so, so good. Okay, so that is my second book. Let's go on to the third one. This one is the winner of the prize this year. It is Heart Lamp, and it's by Banu Mushtaq, and it's translated by Deepa Bashti. Oh my god, I'm like so scared of saying these names wrong, also because they're Indian names. Like with the rest of them I'm like whatever, but like these ones I'm like I really should get them right. Also so proud because it was originally written in Kannada and I'm from Karnataka, and like that's amazing, and she's an Indian author. She's an amazing woman and an activist and everything, so like, you know, so nice. All of that being said, it's an amazing book. Like, I don't think anyone can question that it's an amazing book, but I personally found it really hard to read this book. I know that also the first Booker Prize book that I reviewed, which was The Calculation of Volume, that's like the first book club video I did, I was like, I don't really like this book, and then I like kept referring back to it, and I was like, I did like the book. It was just that the main feeling of the book was boredom, because she's stuck in a time loop, and I was feeling bored while I read it. This one's different. It's definitely not boring at all, but it's like heart-wrenching. Like, it is so sad. Like, it genuinely made me so, so, so sad to be reading this book. And that, I think, made it difficult to read and difficult to enjoy as well. It's like just a bunch of different stories. It's a collection of stories. A lot of them are centered around Muslim women, especially in like Karnataka and stuff, and it was just like really, really sad. Definitely read it, obviously, because she won, and also she's from India and all of that stuff. But yeah, it's really sad. It reminded me kind of reading A Little Life, which like wrecked me. Like it literally like ripped my heart, not literally obviously, but it like ripped my heart to shreds, and I felt like I was carrying this like really heavy burden the entire time that I was reading it, and I almost had to like race to read it and finish it because I didn't want to be in that mental space of that book anymore, but I also couldn't leave it. So that's kind of what it felt like a little bit to read this book. But another book on a happier note that Heartlamp made me think of was Following a Prayer. This is by Sundar Sarukai, and this was recommended to me by the owner of Champaka. Like she was just there one day and then she just like picked it up and gave it to me, and she was like, oh, you should check this book out. And it's like one of those books that you just pick up in the library and you have no expectations of, you've never heard before, and it like is so good, you remember it forever, right? And that's what this book was for me. The reason it reminds me of Heartlamp is it's much lighter. It's not heart-wrenching at all in the same way, but it's set in Karnataka, and it's not about like identity politics or like representation or whatever, but just like hearing there's like these two girls, the young girls in this book, and she keeps being like akka, like da da da, like akka, this thing, and they use a lot of like Kannada words like colloquially in this book, and it comes up a little bit in Heartlamp also. I was just like, oh, this is so nice. I don't know why even it was so nice, because I don't call my sister akka. Like I've never called Yeshu akka in my life, but it just like felt really nice, and that's why. And also it's just like a really good book. I actually really, really enjoyed it, so it's worth a read. Very unique concept as well. So those are the ones. And then I think Khalid Hosseini, like any of the, like I can't believe I don't have 1,000 Splendid Suns in this house, because I definitely own a copy, I just don't know where it is. I think any of those books would also, if you enjoyed this one, you would enjoy those. If you enjoyed those, you would enjoy these as well. Cool. We made it through 3 books, and I think I'm at like a 30-minute mark or something like that. I'll be fast about the rest. After that, I read 2 books. I actually finished this one, but I haven't fully finished this one yet, but I feel like I know what's going to happen. All Fours by Miranda July, so good. The first half of the book like literally sucked me in. I read the sample on Kindle, and then I was like I was like sitting at my door like waiting for the copy to arrive because it's so good. Just like sucks you in, the author's voice. It kind of tailed off a little bit for me, like halfway through, or like 75% of the way through the book, but it's still a really good book. It is really like out there. Like I was genuinely scared that someone would like pick up the book to be like, oh, like what are you reading, and they would like come across a passage and be like, what the fuck are you reading? But it's so good. I love her voice. I tried to watch the TV show that she has out, and I found that really weird. But I think she is really weird, and I think that's like in like the most complimentary way possible. It's a good book. The reason I paired it with Nightbitch is that both of them are kind of about motherhood, or it's at least women who've recently experienced motherhood. Nightbitch is about a lady who thinks she's turning into a dog, and she's filled with rage because of the inequities of being an early mother. So both of these pair together well, and both of them are really interesting, and the tone is really good. See, I told you I'd be faster. Okay, which brings me, I also read James, but I've reviewed that on my mid-year reading review on Substack. This is a previous year's Booker Prize winning book. It was great. I don't want to go into too much. I've written about it already, so go check my Substack if you don't. Which brings me to the last set of books that I've been recently reading and finished. The first is Slouching Towards Bethlehem by Joan Didion. And okay, Joan Didion is obviously extremely popular, but I read the Year of Magical Thinking like 2 or 3 times, and I did not connect to it at all, and I was like, what is going on? So I thought I was just like not someone who would ever enjoy her, and then I read this book and I was like it's so good. It's like insane how good it is. I don't want to oversell it and then you like read it and you don't like it, but honestly I think that's impossible. Like her tone is so good. I also wrote down my review for this one because I'm being more organized. So I wrote, I literally, like, okay, you can't see it, but I literally wrote so good. I didn't enjoy my aromatic thing, blah, 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 blah. And then I wrote tone in all caps. Wry, acerbic, witty, but also curious, endlessly curious. An attention to sentences like Jane Austen. I guess I was like in a phase of comparing everyone to Jane Austen. Um, Read with Carver's What We Talk About When We Talk About Love, and it was so fun. Yeah, that's because I read Slouching Towards Bethlehem with What We Talk About When We Talk About Love, which is by Raymond Carver. And oh my god, it was just like the best reading experience. I feel like I should be in charge of someone's book club, except I don't want to hear other people's opinions on books, like unless it's like a booktuber, I guess. But man, these two books together pair so well because both of them are children of Ernest Hemingway. Like, not children like literally, but like they both were like really heavily inspired by Ernest Hemingway. And like their styles are like complementary but still different. Like initially I was like, is it a gender difference? Like she's like a female version of this dry kind of writing and he's a male version of it, and I was like, no, that's not what it is. Like they're both such weirdos, like that's not what it is at all. But man, okay, so good. I loved all of the essays, honestly, like I loved all of them. But okay, so there's like different sections. So there's lifestyles in the Golden Land, good. There's personals, amazing, like literally life-changing, on keeping a notebook, on self-respect, on morality. All of it is so good. And then finally there's 7 places of the mind. That's okay. Okay, by okay I mean like brilliant obviously, but like compared to the other two, like it didn't do it as much for me. But the stuff on self-respect, the stuff on keeping a notebook, like I think I'll probably be rereading those for the rest of my life. So it was amazing. I read it at the same time as What We Talk About When We Talk About Love. This seems like a great book to read in a cafe to signal to people that you're single and looking for love, and it seems like it's going to be about all these romantic ideals. It is absolutely not. Carver's work, like I think if you have to read it to experience it. Like the stories are so bare bone and they're so harsh, but in the most like disenchanted way, so you don't feel the harshness. Like, you know, with Heartlamp I was like, it's heart-wrenching, like I can't read it. If Carver wrote the same stories, I feel like I would be like, damn, and I would move on, because just like the style and then the subjects that he's able to deal with because of that style, I think is really interesting. I actually realized that I've read a lot of these stories already. I think like from my fiction class and stuff in college. Like I read the first story and I was like, oh, like I've read this before. And then I read the second story and I was like, oh, I've also read this before. And like that kept happening to me. And I was like, have I read this book before? Which I don't think I've read the entirety of the book. But his style is just so interesting that you can read the same book, like stories again, and it's still interesting because it's not about the plot. Even though the plot is interesting, like he really has some like weird ass just plots going on. But it's the style that you're really reading it for, and the way that he depicts humans, and like the distance between what this title would represent, like if you saw someone reading in a cafe versus what the stories actually are, is like part of the humor, which I love. So good, like I cannot recommend it enough. I think it's like essential reading. I don't think anyone writes like him. I could be wrong, maybe I'm just not like well read enough. After reading both of those, I was like, okay, I need to follow this genealogy up, because like they're both inspired by Ernest Hemingway. Also, like, how have I, at like 500 something books, never read a Hemingway book, right? So I was like, get it together, like you need to read this book. I got The Old Man and the Sea. I don't know, I'm not a big fan. I'm like not halfway through, but I'm like, you know, like whatever, like 30% of the way through the book, and I just like can't really get into it. But it's a tiny book, so I'm gonna power through it anyway, and I think I would be rewarded for powering through it, so I will let you guys know. But yeah, those are all of the books that I've been reading. I have a lot of interesting books lined up next, so I'm gonna quickly show you guys. Kairos, which also won the Booker Prize. I'm not going to go into details because then this video will never end. August Blues, which I'm excited about because it's August and I'm a Leo and I love August. Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. I actually love like snippets or whatever I've read from James Baldwin, so I thought it was time for me to like read a full book by him, so I'm excited. I haven't even read like a blurb or anything for that yet, so I'm excited for that. And then this is another Booker Prize winning book. I don't know why I'm like obsessed with the Booker Prize this year, but it's called Time Shelter, which I thought was like a similar concept to my book. It's basically a person who like recreates different eras, like in like warehouses or something like that, and I thought it was like an interesting concept, not something that I would typically pick up, so I'm gonna read this soon as well. But yeah, that is the reading roundup for June, July, and mostly for August because I pretty much told you guys what I'm gonna read, and I will hope to be back with more videos soon. Bye.